Okay, party peoples. This is something I got off the side of the road. No, it's not anybody's spaceship, although you could possibly think it was. Needless to say, this side has been on the underside of the vehicle, quite possibly off a ute or a light truck or something like that. Yeah, what the hell is it? Some of you would have seen a number of my videos in the past, and some might have even seen a more recent one whereby I explained propane car setups and systems, and this is exactly one of those. Now I can assume that they call them the donut tank, and if you haven't quite worked it out yet, this goes where your spare tyre's supposed to go, and this is very common for wagons and, as I said, light trucks, because the tank sits side on. It sort of hangs underneath with light trucks, and it sits under a bunch of MDF or plywood or something like that, underneath obviously the floor of your back, or often enough some cars may have these, some sedans, because it's underneath the floor of the trunk, or a boot as we call it, but many times cars actually have the big cylindrical one from left to right, as I have, because these don't tend to hold a great deal of propane. Simple as that. I know somebody else who had a wagon very similar to my old orange one, just had a small V8 in it instead of a 6, and it was painted brown instead of orange, and they had one of these, and they said they were constantly filling the bastard up almost non-stop. And this one, you've got bolt mounts, so you can safely assume this one's come out of a light truck, because it's actually been bolted to something above it as opposed to sitting down inside the spare wheel mount. And yeah, there's all your taps. Let's see, and I don't think there's any in it. That's your input, your automatic fuel limiter, it says around the side there. That's your one that goes to the front of your vehicle. That is a very tightly spaced blow-off valve setup. There's your gauge underneath there, your tank gauge. They also, of course, have wiring that's hooked into your actual proper fuel gauge in your vehicle, and you change the fuels over, and you wait about 5 minutes, and you'll get the reading of whatever is in this tank, as opposed to your gasoline/petrol tank, and that's your on-off solenoid to turn that crap on and off. I don't know if I somehow need to turn that solenoid on to get that to flow out. Don't really know. I don't really think it makes... Yeah, I don't know really. I think it might make a difference actually. But anyway, these are basically your donut tanks. Often enough, I thought, I'm probably wrong, but I thought that they actually didn't have anything in the centre, and it was just like a friggin' hollow hole like a donut, but they have some of the thickest welds I've ever seen going around this section here. But anyway, yeah, there's your little one of your compliance plates and crap. Oh yeah, you get your pressure, yeah. Your weight is TES 52, WC 75. I don't know if that's your gross weight is 75 kilos. It's bloody heavy enough, I'll tell you that. And oh, this isn't very old. It's got a compliance stamp of January 2012. So yeah. Anyway, that was on the side of the road, because everybody throws these on the side of the road because they don't know what to do with them. Because if it's any more than 10 years old, they are basically, if you re-register a car, like as in you get new number plates, you sell the vehicle, the person who buys the vehicle gets new number plates. The tank has to be less than 10 years old. And if it's more than 10 years old, you need to get a test done, and the bloody test is like about 80% the cost of just putting a new tank in, and there's a chance you're going to fail. So everybody just goes, fuck it, and puts a new tank in. This is surprising, though, because this one is well within, this is only, what, 4.5 years since it's manufactured, so this one would well be within compliance, which is surprising because usually all the ones you find on the side of the road are at least more than 10 years old. Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd show that. At the end of the day, this is probably going to be used for something, especially if it's actually solid through there and I don't have a friggin' anything blocked in the middle. This might make a very good bizarre wood heater. There are ways and means to deal with these, which usually involve opening the tap and then either putting my favourite method is to 1/8 inch hole drilled through, or if you're a crazy bastard, you can actually undo the screws and the gasket will go and kill the gasket, and then it'll release. And then you're supposed to fill it with water. And often enough, I just actually take all these out altogether. Some of those are actually stuck in with Loctite. They're damn near impossible to get out. And the other option is that I don't mind doing is actually, although I don't really, deal with these very much, is to actually put your 3/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch hole through, and then actually put a hole saw in there and cut a big hole with a hole saw. But yeah, this one's a rarity because to be honest, I've only ever seen these hooked under a couple of vehicles, never seen one really up close. And at the end of the day, everybody throws out these things because they don't know what else to do with them, but if you get the propane out of them by taking off some of this gear or drilling a hole through it or whatever, and filling it with water, then if you don't have a use for it, you can just put it in scrap metal anyway. They will balk at the scrap metal joint, but that's easy because what you do is you cut it in half, or in case of the cylindrical ones, you cut either end off and then you run over the middle of it with a car or a tractor and it flattens it down to a flat bit of sheet metal and two little dish ends, and then and then the guys at scrap metal don't give a shit because there's obviously no propane in it if it's as flat as a pancake and got either end cut off. But anyway, just thought I'd pick that up to show you guys, and all this sort of stuff is good. It's all at least 1/8 of an inch thick, this sheet metal, and it's all good to use as steel on other bits and pieces, especially the cylindrical ones if you want to make wood heaters. And that's often what plenty of them end up becoming, and a lot of the guys at the local government who are tasked with going and picking these up off the side of the road actually turn them into wood heaters, and most of the guys who work for the local government have got a wood heater made out of an old car propane tank, and usually they give one to the brother and the brother-in-law and their friggin' everyone else in the family. But yeah, a lot of people, they just sort of, I don't want this, let's get rid of it, dump it on the side of the road. Don't really think of any uses, and the average yuppie can't use a bloody angle grinder and welder anyway, so